Hey creative friends, it's Gwen and I'm back today with another scrapbooking process video. Today's share is Maggie Holmes Monday and I have a little bit of carousel left to use up. Here is everything that I have from this collection. I'm also going to be playing along with scrap timber and today's theme is paper scraps. This right here is the only piece of paper from the collection that I have left that is the full 12 by 12 inch width, and I'm going to use it to create the border for my page. Normally, I would just create a frame using a full 12 by 12 sheet. I'd take the center out of that full sheet of paper, but today we're using up scraps and I did come up with this alternate method. I have just cut the piece that I had left into 4 sections and I'm going to mount them onto a full 12 by 12 piece of cardstock. This could be any cardstock. It could actually just be one that you have in your stash that you don't like anymore. None of that piece there will be seen at the end. I'm just going to use this as a bit of a template and a guide. So I've just used my ATG to adhere the paper strips down, and then I'm going to grab a second piece of cardstock. This is the piece that you'll want to use for your background of your layout. So in my case, I am still using white, and I'm just going to trim off 1/2 inch off 2 sides. And then I'm going to layer it on top like so. And now I have my frame. Here's a look at the stitching detail that I've added and I'm now ready to create the layout. The last time that I was working with this collection, I noticed that I was really getting down to the last few supplies. So I did go ahead and sort them by color. I was finding that it was a bit tricky to work with what I had, just how it was. There was a lot of like half empty sheets and bits and pieces sort of everywhere. So I did take the time and categorized everything by color and put them into these little Ziploc bags. I found it really easy to create this way and I will definitely try it again for another collection that I have once I've gotten down to only a few pieces left. I am scrapbooking Disney again today. This collection has been an absolute lifesaver in terms of documenting those photos. I think that's the main thing that I've documented with this line. So yep, Disney again today, and super inspired to use this word yay here as my title. I think I've looked at this piece nearly every time I've gone to make a layout and wanted to use it and it just hasn't fit. It's either been too big or too black. So when I decided on this photo, I was like, right, I'm doing it. This is going to be the title, the starting point for this layout. It will end up on this page. I do also end up going and adding stitching around the border of that piece as well, just to pull everything together. I will end up having the stitching on the border frame, the stitching on the word yay, and then obviously stitching on my photo. I am going to work largest elements to smallest elements for this page, and I also did have this very large swan. It was part of a different type of embellishment pack. I think it was originally made for card makers and it was supposed to be just like the front of a card. It was on a dark pink background and I had Fussy cut it out some time ago. It's also been kicking around the studio. So I thought if I work largest to smallest in terms of elements, I have a chance to get them onto the page. To be honest, I really just sat down and started creating this layout. I didn't go in with a plan. I don't have a sketch I'm working with. I'm really just going to let the 3 pieces that I'd really like to use determine how this page ends up. All 3 of those pieces are actually quite large, so I know that I'm going to have limited choices, but I also know that once I get their position right, a lot of the hard work in terms of the layout design is going to be done. I'm going to keep the section with the photo and the embellishments separate from the background for now because I'm really still not sure exactly where everything's going to go. I want the ability to be able to move this as one big piece and just make sure that come at the end of the layout, it is all centered. I found that it's not always practical to build the layout from the bottom all the way to the top. Sometimes you have to work in layers and do the background layer separately to that top layer, and that's exactly what we're doing today. I've decided for this layout I'm going to work with black, white, pink, and green. So I did find a cute little tag that I've added in under the word yay there. I like that it sort of grounds everything a little bit, builds out the cluster a little bit as well, and it's going to fit perfectly with my color scheme. The black and white floral elements, those were actually a much larger sheet of paper, 12 by 12, that I had Fussy cut out just on a separate occasion. So I am going to use those in my layers and they're going to be a bit of a base for the clusters. And this is the shade of blue that I want to work with. And because I have separated everything out by color, I know exactly what I have to work with. I'm going to use that row of numbers just as a layering piece. Don't worry, the tag element does come back in a moment. I like that it has some gold touches to it, which is good because the swan has a lot of gold on it. And I just wanted to tie that in a little bit more. The easiest way to tie anything in to your page is to replicate it. Initially for me, the swan stood out. The gold foiling in the swan was a little bit extra. But when I added the extra element there with the numbers, see how they've got gold foiling as well? It kind of helps balance it out. It seems a bit weird because essentially you're adding more of the thing that you think stands out, but by doing so, it makes it feel like it was meant to be there. I'll also be adding the die cut here that says tickets. It has a little bit of gold on it as well. And I noticed too that the tag, the center part of the tag, it has a little bit of that same gold. So it's nice and spread now across the layout. Super happy with how that's looking. I'm adhering everything down with the ATG gun. I like that the tape in there is repositionable. I have some wiggle room if I need to lift something up or change my mind. I'm going to end up with 3 floral clusters. The first will be a small one above the photo. The second will be a large cluster, which essentially will go behind the swan. I'm going to build that up with a couple of different pieces. The third one will be a small one again, and it will be underneath the photo near the tag there. They are going to create a visual triangle, but what I like about them the most is that they soften the edges for the elements that I currently have on the layout. So before I added them, I felt like it was very blocky. All of the elements that I had on the page were rectangles, rectangle title, rectangle photo. Even that ticket die cut is essentially a rectangle shape with some flags on the top. So I feel like adding the florals really softens everything, and it makes that line that if you were to draw a line around the edge of all of the elements, it makes that line really interesting, and that's something that I really strive for on my layouts. Next, I'm going to work on some of the medium and smaller sized embellishments. I layer in this tag. It's a journaling tag. Cut it in half, slide it under my paper layers there just for an extra little detail. I also found these 2 gold hearts. They are not from this collection. They are from Cute Girl by Crate Paper. The gold though is a perfect match, and they say love you and cute girl. Things are getting serious because I'm gluing stuff down. I'll lock those into position, and you can see there, it's just like the smallest little detail, but I like to use that as a way to balance out the colors and yeah, just add a little bit more interest to the page. I also found this epoxy flare button in the perfect shade of green. It matches so well, and it says smile. So I'm going to add that in up the top there next to the little lady selling tickets. I'm going to lock in the hearts here as well, and I'm still feeling like it needs some more dimension. It's feeling very papery, which I always joke because it's a scrapbook layout. Of course it feels papery, but I just want to add a couple more things. I'm just making sure everything is stuck down. And yes, it was at this point that I didn't want that piece up on foam. I wanted it flat to the page, so I do switch that out. I also find a paper clip in my stash, and I'm going to add that to the top right hand corner of my photo. I'm also going to add in some enamel dots, so you'll see me audition them here. I'm going to add 3 clusters to help draw the eye around the page. These are from Cocoa Vanilla Studio. I know they're not Maggie. I feel like I've cheated a little bit today. There's a few extra embellishments that I've added in. I hope you don't mind that. I'm adding the enamel dots in clusters, and I always like to mix and match the size of the enamel dot within each cluster. I'm also having a think about the balance of the color. So generally they will be in clusters of 3. And I will think about whether I want 2 pink and 1 green or 2 green and 1 pink. Just depends what other elements are on the page that are near the cluster and how everything flows together. While I finished that up, I did want to share with you some close-up images of the layout, just so you can see all of the little details. If you like the way that I scrapbook or the way that I chat about the way that I scrapbook, I would love it if you give this video a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below the latest collection from Maggie Holmes that you've been using. If you're looking for even more ideas on how you can stash bust your Maggie Holmes supplies, be sure to check out this playlist here. So many ideas and layout samples for you to check out. I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, bye!